Hello everyone, this is the Excel beginner tutorial that we're going to be starting here. So first we're going to start with just opening Excel. I have it pinned to the taskbar here, so I'm just going to click on it and it's going to open it up. And we're just going to start working with a blank workbook here, so just click this blank workbook. And you see it's got some rows and it's got columns here, and so that's kind of how you navigate Excel. And it also uses a ribbon kind of system, that's these here. That have the different sections, essentially, that you can use to format things and add things and do all of that stuff. To select cells is pretty easy. All you're going to do is click on it with the mouse. So now A1 is selected at the moment. And you can see that because right here in the name box there, it has which cell it's selected. So if I clicked over here on C4, it now displays C4 in the box. You can also select a various range of cells by clicking on one and holding the button down and dragging across. So now I have a range of cells selected here. We have A1 to C10 highlighted, but it just shows the first one in that name box. So all the information that you're going to store in an Excel spreadsheet is stored in a cell. So cells can contain a bunch of different things, including text, numbers, letters, anything, formatting things, formulas, functions, and we'll get into all of that stuff later. First, we're going to get started with inputting some just temperatures for cities in January and July. So first, we're going to have the first column here just be the titles of what each thing is going to be in the row. So we're going to have a city, we're going to have January, we're going to have July. I'm going to want to bold these just because I know they're a title and it just makes it look a little nicer and stand out a bit. I'm also going to up the size a little bit. Alright, next we're going to enter the names of the cities that we're using here. We're going to have Denver and Miami. And the easiest way to navigate between these cells here is if you want to go down in the column as you're entering the data, just scroll down, hitting the Enter key will move you down, and if you hit the Tab key, it'll move you across. So that's just something that's easy and quick if you're entering a lot of data. So now I'm just going to fill in the temperatures for these cities really quick here. Give me a second. So now we have all the data in there. We're going to manipulate it a little bit now. So now we want to insert a new column in between the city and the January. To do that, just right-click on the B column and hit Insert. It'll insert a new row right in between them. We want to label it State and see how it's kept the formatting of the other columns there. That's really nice. And we want to input the state for each of the cities that we found here. And we also want to change the name of the sheet 1 here to something a little more descriptive for it. So we're going to right click on that and hit rename. And I'm going to name this city temperatures. And then just hit enter. So now we want to find the temperature change between January and July. And to do that, we'll use a formula that will subtract the January temperature from the July one. First, we're going to create a column for that. I'm just going to call it difference. And the formula, to make a formula, you start it with an equal sign. Now, you can either type this in manually, or you can click and drag the values you want. It's a little easier to just select them that way. However, it's going the wrong way, so in this case, you might want to type it in manually because we actually want this to be a subtraction rather than just a range. So right now it's subtracting the January temperature from the July temperature, and once you hit enter here, that'll actually become a number. And now the formula for the rest of the rows stay the same. The only difference is the rows that we're using. So instead of D6 and C6, we're going to use D2 minus C2. And one really nice feature of Excel is if a formula remains the same throughout things, you can actually position your cursor here at the lower corner there and just click and drag it down. And it will actually copy the formula that you have there to all the other cells. But it's smart enough to know that you want to change the numbers of the rows you're going for. So it will actually get the right rows when you drag it down each time. So that's just a really handy feature that Excel provides for you, and it makes things go a lot faster. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about absolute formulas. So what we're going to want to do is create a second sheet. You can do that by just hitting this little plus button there for a new sheet. And we want to copy the first 3 columns from the temperature sheet and paste it into the new sheet. So to do that, you can just select those first 3 rows and either use your keyboard shortcuts or just right-click and copy. You can go into here, into your second sheet here, right-click and paste. And now we want to add 3 rows to the top of the sheet. So same way that we added a column, you can add a row, so just right-click there and do Insert. Well, we want 3 of them. Alright. Here we want to add another city to use in the comparison. So now we want to create the formula to find the difference between the comparison city up here and the city in the table. We want to make sure the value is positive. So to do that, it'll be the state or the temperature in the table minus the comparison city. So to do that, very much like the other one, we're going to type in an equal sign to begin the formula, and then we're going to type in the first cell number here, which is C5 minus C2. So now, if you try to copy the value the way we did before, that really cool feature that I told you about earlier where it automatically adjusts the values that it's subtracting doesn't really work in our favor here because it's actually moving you down to here, but we always want this one to stay consistent. We want it to be C2 every single time. So the way to do that is to actually write it a little bit differently, and the original formula should actually be written as C5 minus $C $2. That makes that absolute, so it will not change. So then if you copy it down, you see it goes from C6 or C5 to C6 to C7, but that C2 is always the same. It never changes. So we have it the way we want it to be when you click and drag it down. And that's all I have for you today. Just play around with the formulas a little bit more. There's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do with Excel. This is just the tip of the iceberg, and I'll get into that a little bit more in the later lessons. Have fun with it!